If everybody can settle down, I'd like to call the meeting to order, please. Welcome to the Lee Select Board meeting, 7 o'clock on April 4th. Our first order of business, we have open session minutes from March 7th, March 8th, and March 9th. Actually, I have, oh no, sorry, I was reading the wrong, I was reading the wrong minutes line. March 21st minutes we have in front of us.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to accept the March 21st minutes as written.
I'll second that.
If there's no further discussion on the minutes, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our next order of business, we have a public hearing tonight. This is Silverleaf Resorts, doing business as Oak and Spruce Resort. And really we have a number of applications in front of us. There's application for a change of officers, directors, LLC managers, change of corporate name, and a change of ownership interest. So I think the ownership interest is what we're interested in doing. The hearing is the reason we're calling the hearing. Do we have somebody from Silverleaf here?
Hi, yes, yeah. This is I'm actually on Zoom. This is Cindy Coach with Oak and Spruce Resort.
Hey Cindy, do you have anything that you wanted to add or let us know about? We've received your applications and it looks like you know, everything, we have all the documents and the fee and everything submitted. So if there's anything you'd like to say, now's your time.
No, I really don't have anything. We're just looking to change the name, and that's it. Pretty straightforward.
Okay. So I mean, I think before I open the hearing up, we can approve the application for change of officers, directors, LLC managers, and then the change of corporate name. But we just need to hold a hearing for the ownership of interest. So,
I'd make a motion that we approve the line items as you stated them.
Yeah,
I'll second that.
If there's no further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So now I'll open the hearing for the change of ownership interest. If there's anyone in the public who would like to comment at this point, or any members from the board. Pretty standard change of ownership interest that they need to submit to the ABC, right?
I believe this was just a follow-up from the last hearing from the ABCC. One more thing that the state would like them to do for that liquor license.
Mr. Chairman, for the public, it seems like it's just a paperwork change from a corporation to an LLC. I think that's really the only issue at hand, if anybody has a question about that. But I don't think, other than that, there's any structural change to the
It's all the same owners,
management.
Yeah,
same management, same individuals, but they changed their corporate structure from a regular corporation to an LLC is what it seems like. Maybe she could say whether that's correct.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome.
Well,
of course.
I don't see anyone else looking to comment on this, so I'd entertain a motion for approval of the change of ownership interest.
I'll make a motion that we approve the change of ownership interest from Silverleaf Resorts, doing business as Oak and Spruce Resort at 190 Meadow Street.
I'll second that motion.
And if there's no further discussion on the motion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that brings us to public comment. I did want to just try this sign-in sheet, make it a little easier for Sabrina to do the minutes if she has your information. But I'll kind of recognize everybody in turn, but this isn't going to prevent you from speaking. If you want to say something on during the public comment, feel free to stand up. I'll talk it through when I get to the end of the list. But first up, I have Kathy Hall. So if you want to.
Hello, Kathy Hall from the Lee Youth Commission, chairwoman of the commission. The Lee Youth Commission has ordered a shed to store equipment at the Lee Athletic Field. It should be delivered sometime next week. The carpenter class at Lee Middle and High School is building the shed, and right now they're putting on the stain. And once we find somebody to deliver it, it'll be at the, at the field. And the DPW is in charge of that process. We are also checking on possible playground areas for soccer. A regulation field is 120 yards by 60 yards wide, and a youth field at minimum is 80 yards by 45 yards. So we needed to know those measurements in order to look around at what might be available in our playgrounds. In addition, we're planning on continuing spring and summer activities. A reminder, if you want to use the pavilion for an event, you need to reserve the space by contacting the Lee Department of Public Works at 243-5520. We'd also like to remind people that dogs need to be leashed, on a leash, and please pick up their poopies. Don't just put it in a bag and leave the bag on the field, because it's not pleasant to have to pick that up. So if you'd please do that. And we've noticed when we go down to, check things out, that you have to watch where you're walking. And there's lots of little kids out there now because of the good weather. And then just a shout out to the Chamber of Commerce. They're getting ready to talk about Founders Weekend, and there is a meeting tomorrow at 9:30 at the Congregational Church. And that's about it for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question, if I could. As far as Founder's Day, maybe it's for the town administrator, but who's organizing the parade and who makes all the calls and all that?
Yeah, so the chamber does that, and they have someone that they'll appoint as a chair.
Okay.
So.
Well, I know it's passed hands after Aldo to the fire department, and I just wasn't sure who it was this year, if we want to donate time or effort, energy.
I don't know if they've appointed someone to be in charge of that.
Right.
Last year it was Tom Swift who did it.
Sure.
Yeah.
So it's through the chamber.
Right, it's through the chamber.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you. Next I have Monica Ryan.
Monica Ryan, Laurel Street in Lee, and I would like to ask the Select Board to consider putting a dog park in our town. It's very good for dogs to socialize. I bring my dog all the way up to Pittsfield right now, and it's a distance, and a lot of waste of gas. So a lot of people have just one dog, and it's a really good opportunity for them to socialize. And it can be done very safely and I think really at minimal cost. I don't know if you've been to the one in Pittsfield. It's just one, they've got a big park and a small dog park, and it's well fenced, it's large, it's trees, there's a few fences, there's a water fountain, and some parking. So I think it can be easily done at not a great expense, maybe get some grant money for it, I don't know. But I would really like to, suggest that we get that. Possible locations could be maybe even near that side lot next to the sewer plant, not where they play soccer, but on the other side of the driveway, that long run there, that might be a good spot for it. We own that property already. So I would like to put that out there to you to consider and maybe put it on the, next, I don't know if it's too late for the annual town warrant for this year. If it's not too late and I need to put in an article, I can put one in. Is it too late to put an article in now?
Yeah, at this
Probably
point.
for public, from the public, but we can consider.
For next year. I mean, there's no rush.
The Select Board can consider, adding it
for next year.
warrants for this year, actually.
Oh, for this year?
We're gonna discuss the warrant tonight, so we can talk about that then.
Yeah, I was just going to mention too, in FY25, the CPC will be giving out funds too for community preservation funds.
Right.
So that might be something that you might want to bring to them.
Right.
And they'll have, that'll be their first year. So next year at this time, they'll have things on the warrant for that.
Okay.
But I will say on our study that has been going on for Stockbridge Road, that's Probably the number one thing that's been brought up, so
Right.
I'm sure there'll be some consideration,
Oh, that
whether it
property
be there
over
or,
there.
you know,
Right.
or another spot. But
Yeah.
that's come up a lot between
Yeah.
the master plan and the,
Okay,
and the study for
all right.
Stockbridge, so I'm sure you'll see more of that, so.
All right. And I do know someone who is also in favor of it, who will be getting my vote in the next select board election. Ann Langlis is, we've talked about it at length, and she's in support of it as well.
Yeah.
So hopefully if she wins, she'll also be in support of it. And I know she is, so thank you. Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Monica. Next on the list, I have Ann Langlis.
Hi, Ann Langlis, 25 Union Street. A few of us just met together a little bit before the meeting, and one of the things thrown around the dinner table was how everybody's taxes are going up. And it just seems kind of a tough thing to be paying when we still haven't made a decision whether we're going to be going through and being forced to have this PCB dump put in our town. And I know our bills still need to be paid, and we have, you know, our yearly budget that all has to be met up with. But if we could maybe, I don't know, within a half a mile, 3/4 mile radius of where this proposed dump is going to be, if we could take a look at those people's taxes, is there any way of giving them a freeze for a short time, or, you know, we tend to level fund when a lot of the times when our budget's really tight, and we ask a lot of our departments to do a level fund. Is there any way that we can apply that to those people who are going to be mostly affected where that proposed UDF is going to be? And it just would be really nice to take care of our neighbors. So, thank you.
Thanks, Ann.
Mr. Chairman? Hi, yeah, I would just respond to that to say, probably for this year, because there are, as you well know, there's a number of suits out there right now that may in fact, if things go the way we would like them to go, there will not be a permanent dump there. And that's what we're hoping for. So with that in mind, I think for this year, we're waiting and seeing what's happening with that, or that would be my opinion. We're going to see what happens. But I certainly, I've discussed this before, if for any reason everything fails and the worst case happens, absolutely I think that the neighborhood and within a certain radius needs to have some kind of tax abatements and reevaluations. In fact, that was one of the things that I put out long ago. I think we need to have a committee that actually looks into that. But for this tax year, I think if we just hold and see what happens to these lawsuits, and then we can make a decision to go forward. But I absolutely agree that that has to be something that has to be looked at, without a doubt. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
So I have one more on the sheet before. I did see a hand on Zoom as well, so is that,
Can't read the writing.
sorry,
Carrington.
Carrington?
Oh,
Dave? Dave Carrington?
Yes.
Do you have a public comment you wanna, I'm just taking it in turn if you have a public comment you wanted to submit. Okay.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yeah.
It's that gentleman down there, the one that didn't give me his checking account.
Mr. Wright?
Okay, I do have a hand on Zoom here, so if anybody wants to, speak after, please feel free, but, Claire, if you wanna unmute yourself.
Claire Leahy?
Yeah, she's right here.
Hello,
Hi.
I'm unmuted,
Perfect.
right? You can, okay. I want to ask about the property on Woodland Road that's been operating on conservation recreation land without a permit to run an industrial operation on that land. That is the Garrity operation. And we had a planning board hearing a couple of years ago where they were applying for a permit to a change in zoning, and they were not allowed to do that by the zoning board. And then it seems to be that it all fell by the waysides, and nobody knew who was supposed to be enforcing the fact that there was an operation going on in a conservation recreational zone that was not permitted by the planning board. I've spoken to a few people about it, and I'd like a clarification from the select board.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Claire, there's
Okay.
actually been a DEP, I don't, is it cease and desist, or there was some sort of,
Yeah,
DEP?
There was a cease and desist, there was, I think it was asphalt, they had a big dump there.
Yeah,
And the last I checked, that had been removed, but if they're continuing to use it as an industrial site, that's news to me.
Also, if you want to look, Mr. Chairman,
yeah, please.
if I could, if you want to look into it further, Claire, your best bet is you call the zoning enforcement officer, who happens to be our building official, Matt Coleman. Give him a call in the office, it's 243-5518, and discuss with him that you think it's still going on, and he's the one who would investigate and enforce that.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
That,
Because you're right, they're
yes.
not allowed to be
I can't
operating.
believe,
Yeah.
everybody seems to think that the DEP was taking care of it, but they made it very clear that they had asked for some change in what they were doing there. But as far as zoning, it was up to the town
Yes.
to take care of this and enforce it. And I am just so bothered by the fact that our town is not operating in a way that they know what their rules are.
Well,
Thank you.
it could be that he hasn't been notified that, in fact, they are continuing to violate. He
Right.
knows that they did violate.
I'm sorry, there was a former
Yeah,
agent.
right, and I understand that, so
that
now we have.
allowed it to happen.
Yeah, now we
And
have somebody new. So get hold of the current zoning enforcement officer and get back to us if no action's taken.
Why is it up to me?
Oh, it's not. I'll follow up.
I can
Don't
talk
you
to
worry
him
about it.
tomorrow.
I'm happy to do that.
I think that would be really nice. for you to
Not a
follow up on
problem.
it.
Then I'll give him a call tomorrow morning or leave it up to our town administrator to do that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have Claire, anyone else on Zoom before I go? Go ahead. I don't have any other hands on Zoom, so if anybody in the room wants to add a public comment, just identify yourself, please. for
Gail
the-
Cerisio.
Thank you.
Lee. I just have a question. I know things are being done with the municipal committee, but I just wanted to get some clarification of what their task was to begin with. Because when the committee voted to appropriate $15,000 to fight against our town with the dump, I just began to wonder, well, what was the task of this committee? And are they even supposed to be voting on something like that? And then Chris did send me some information, and it looks like the select board is supposed to be involved, and there are at least three people that voted to appropriate $15,000 to be in the oral arguments against Lee having for Lee to have a dump against Lee's standpoint. And I'm just wondering if you are clear about the tasking of that committee. Did they have a right to do that? It seems to me that it looked like it had to go back to the selectmen. And so I'm just wondering about the actual task of this committee.
Can you tell
You're
the public what committee you're talking
yeah, I
about?
was just gonna
Oh,
ask
I'm
that.
sorry.
It's not a town committee.
The
Let's just put it that
the
way.
municipal committee for
Rest of the river.
the rest of the river.
Sure.
I'm talking
Right.
about that committee,
Yeah.
sorry.
So Gail, what you're referring to, Rest of the River met last week and
Right.
appropriated some funds.
Appropriated, sorry, I didn't clarify, it's all in
Yeah.
my head, wasn't in yours. So, yeah, the 15,000, and I did walk away being very upset about it.
Right.
And, I did look to see who was on the committee and who the select boards of the various towns and who the conservation commissions of the various towns. I didn't get into who's on the conservation commission in the very town. I didn't get into the board of health part because that's more complicated. But I just started to look at that and think, well, maybe, you guys were all gonna talk to the select boards, but maybe like at the town meetings, maybe we can, see if there's anybody in that town that would, you know, bring the issue up at their town meeting, because everybody's having town meetings, and that's all something that you guys could facilitate just as well as, you know, the people out here, you know, the public, so.
Bob, you want to speak to it?
Yeah, I can address that. I'm the Rest of the River representative for those of you that don't know. Yeah, the vote went 4-1 to appropriate $15,000. Lee does not pay into that fund. Lee, that we voted at town meeting, I think the reps voted not to pay into that fund, but we're still a member of the Rest of the River.
Right.
I've been saying this for 3 years. We've been saying this for 3 years. The way this agreement has been structured, the way Rest of the River has been structured, just leaves gaping holes in terms of representation, in terms of not only select boards being represented, but of course the people of these towns. Now, I can tell you that I speak with Sean and Gordon about these meetings. We talk about what's going to be on the agenda, where does Lee stand on this, and I think we're all clear on where Lee stands on Rest of the River and the proposed PCB dump. The other towns, there are only 2 elected officials on the Rest of the River committee. Town of Lee, me, and then the town of Sheffield, which is Renee Wood. Those are 2 select board members. All the others are appointees that are not elected officials. That's a terrible flaw in my estimation. As far as the accountability, it looks like it's presumed that these reps go back and talk to their select boards and get direction. I can tell you for certain in one town, that just didn't happen. That vote there was money voted to go after HRI or to support GE and the EPA against HRI, and that rep never went back to the board. That was an arbitrary, unilateral decision, and there's quite an upset in that town, and I'll leave it to the officials there to, and the townspeople there to deal with that, okay?
Yeah.
But it's the way the agreement is structured. And, you know, we talk about checks and balances. We all learned about it in history class. We all learned about it in civics class. Checks and balances are not there in the Rest of the River Committee. And that's part of the problem that we're fighting right now.
Well, some of the information that Berkshire Regional Planning had, that I asked Chris about what is their task, and he sent me some information, and it specifically said that in order to make any real decision, a select board had to be involved.
Right.
So, you know, I mean, I don't watch all the other town meetings to see if they, you know, went and talked in an open meeting or what, whatever.
They can't because anything discussed at Rest of the River, cannot be discussed in open meeting. They go back to their select board. So you either have 3 or 5 people on a select board talking with a representative, and they're making decisions for tens of thousands of people in the river corridor, and the public has no say whatsoever. They come to decisions, and then they release their minutes and their decisions after the fact. So that's part of the problem with the structured agreement.
Right.
It's been that way since the beginning.
Yeah, so that's the contention of the whole situation.
That's part of it. That's a big part of the problem. So if you're outraged, so are we.
Yeah. And also, as has been noted, I believe that when you read their agenda, it was incredibly cryptic as to what they were going to be talking about. So more than likely, we're pretty sure that there's already an issue about that'll be taken up with the state.
Okay, great. Thank you.
If I may, Sean, I just have one last bit. The impression, when this first came out 3 years ago, we're all piling into these things, trying to understand it, the impression that was given was that the Rest of the River Committee, there was going to be representation for every town, and they were going to make sure that GE did a good job, and they were going to make sure that GE kept their word, and then this was all going to be, and it's democracy, you know, in the making. And that's not what happened with this last vote. Those other towns, the people in those towns don't know what's going on. And the other select boards are taking the word of whoever's sitting at the table of the Rest of the River, and now they're piling on. They have no standing in this case with HRI. I have no standing whatsoever, but they decided to pile on by putting in an adjudicatory brief to go after HRI.
I know, it's crazy.
And I might add, and it's a conversation that's going on, and feel free to talk to our friends in Stockbridge. There's a conversation going on right now about shared services and a shared facility out on Route 102 with Stockbridge for fire and police and EMS, not police, but fire and EMS. And, you know, I was feeling pretty good about that.
Yeah, you should. I think that's great.
But I'm trying to understand why the select board in Stockbridge would pile on and want a PCB dump and leave when we're trying to be friendly and trying to be cooperative in these other areas. It turns out the select board
Had
didn't
no
know
idea.
anything about it.
I don't even think that the other select boards have any idea.
Well, I can't
Except for
testify to that.
Sheffield,
I
you
don't
know.
know.
Okay, well, it was just in that one paragraph, it did say select board person, you know. The
Yeah.
select board was responsible, and I didn't see that happening, so.
I think some of those members were at one time members
Yeah,
of the select
yeah.
board and not anymore. But,
Right.
Lincoln used to be president.
Thank you, Gail. I have another hand, Josh Bloom on Zoom here.
Hi, everyone. I just wanted to confirm that I spoke with Great Barrington Select Board member Ed Abrams this morning. He confirmed to me that the Select Board of Great Barrington was not consulted with or asked for input before their town employee rendered their decision on that vote as well. And we know that that is also true about Stockbridge. So we know that that was not representative. What also, though, came out of this process that I want to ask the Select Board about is that back in November, you reported out that you engaged Stockbridge in a consultative process about the rest of the river agreement, and the response was that they were disinterested in engaging with us on that issue. It came across as, I think, people had hurt feelings and was made to look bad, including myself and including a select board member in Stockbridge, because the select board and of Lee did not disclose an update to that information, that the select board of Stockbridge had a change of heart and informed the town of Lee that they could, in fact, formally submit a request to present themselves before the board. So I think it was unfortunate that we did not have that information, because we thought, I think as an activist and as a townsperson, I thought that engaging the other town select boards became a dead end at that point when you reported that out. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that's the case anymore. And I want you to ask you to consider responding to that offer and engaging the other select boards as a select board as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I've had that thought, Josh. If we were going to continue to go down this route, we would just submit formal requests to all the towns if we were going to do anything. I don't know. You guys want to?
Yeah, I can say. You've got it mostly right, Josh, but not all right.
Yeah.
Back in November, we did. I personally reached out to each select board member in Stockbridge, Jamie Manacci, who just got elected, Patrick White, who's the chairperson, and Chuck Cardillo, and asked them all if they would be willing to meet with us to discuss the proposed dump site, rest of the river. And they all said yes. Sometime shortly thereafter, maybe a month thereafter, we heard from their town administrators saying that at least a couple of them, and I can tell you it was just a couple of them, decided they were happy with the agreement the way it was, with no discussion with me. I didn't hear back from them. I then reached out to Patrick White, who's pretty knowledgeable actually about this agreement, he's made it his business to educate himself about PCBs and the way this whole deal is structured. And Patrick did say, if you guys, if you want to do that, if you want to send us a letter, send a letter to all the towns, I'll see that it gets on the agenda. But it was something said in passing. Now, to explain why we didn't make a public announcement that all of a sudden we were going to be sending out letters and meeting with other. It's because the time has not been right. We've got a private group of citizens who have a case in Superior Court. We have HRI in federal court. We are waiting for some sort of ruling from the Lee Board of Health on the viability of the proposed site. And we also have been working for some time on an announcement that you read about in the paper today. So there are a lot of balls in the air, and I can tell you, you can run from here and there and go to the different meetings. And I'm glad that you're doing it. Thank you for the work that you're doing. This board has to act a little more prudently, a little more gingerly, because we don't want to misstep. We want to get this right. We've gotten the message loud and clear for the last several years that people in this town don't want to dump. Talking to the other boards is certainly still on the table, but the timing is everything. And I know that it's hard to trust government on any level in this day and age, but I can assure you that that is on the table and that this board is working diligently to get it right. None of us wants a dump, and we really want to see it stopped. Does that help you?
Yes, thank you. I only say those words with the utmost of support. I want to just personally say, having attended the Rest of the River meeting, that Lee was incredibly well represented, and we should be proud of our representation in that meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else in the room? I couldn't remember if there's a couple more hands. Ann Langus,
25 Union Street. With the two other boards, obviously we don't have any lawyers sitting here today, but I know that we do possibly have a lawyer for our town. Maybe asking him the question of, can the townspeople of those two towns, which is Great Barrington and Stockbridge, who were not represented by their select boards in making those decisions, will they be able to go back and do a revote through the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission as far as them jumping on board with the amicus brief against HRI and Heal going to court? That's what I'd like to see, if we can get that question to our town lawyer. Thank you.
That's a good question. Thank you.
okay. You good? Yeah. Any other public comments? I can't see. Claire, was your hand still up from before? Because it's.
No, it's up for now.
Okay.
I just want to, if I could make a comment on the Houstonic West River Municipal Committee. It was suggested to me that I find out what their bylaws and role is. And to get that information, I had to go back to their minutes throughout the years from 2012. And in 2012, when they were put together by the Berkshire Regional Planning Commission, their role was stated as an advisory committee to the town select boards and to keep them updated as to the process of the river restoration or whatever. I can't tell you the exact words. I don't have them in front of me now, but also to keep them posted throughout the execution of the plan. But it's very, very vague, but it is in their minutes up to April, I believe, 2012, when they were first formed. And I have not seen any bylaws at all. And I think it would be prudent for the town to research that a little further to see if this committee should not be, and it is just a committee.
Right. Yeah, I think.
With a lot of power. 5 people with a lot of power.
Right.
One person from each town that's making decisions without anything, any consultation with the select board, much less the populace of their town.
Yeah, I believe there's an intermunicipal agreement in place that governs that body. I don't know if you have a copy of that, Claire. That might be helpful. Anyway.
We can review it.
Yeah. there's no other.
Where could I find that?
I don't exactly
Go
know.
to the rest of the river site.
Yeah, if you go to,
But I think
right.
I sent Claire that already.
Okay,
that,
then you probably already have it.
All the public documents are up there. I can double check
No, I'm
tomorrow and
sorry.
see.
I searched
If that's
for it
not
and I
there, I
haven't
can double
found it.
check to
Okay.
see
Thank you,
if
if you could send it
it's
again.
something that's available.
Appreciate it.
Sign it again.
we'll check in and get back to you on that, Gail, thanks. All right, if there's no other public comments, we're gonna switch gears. Our first item of general business, we have an agreement to sign with real estate research consultants. Now,
Yeah, I'm leaving the meeting. Is that meeting?
now this is a proposal for provision of valuation maintenance services in the town.
Yep, this is the company we've used in the past, and they are the only bid we received during the public bidding, so.
So if I don't have any corrections or questions about the agreement here, I'd entertain a motion for, I guess it looks like the, it says Board of Chair, but I don't, Board of Selectmen, but I only see one line.
Yeah, I think she
Yeah,
amended it to be
to
just
authorize
the chair.
I
for
see,
Sean
yeah,
to sign,
authorized
yeah.
for,
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd make a motion to allow the chair to sign the agreement of, for revaluation services through the assessor's office, fiscal year 2024 through fiscal year 2026.
I'll second that.
motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our next order of business, we have an agreement with Wastewater Services Incorporated, and this is for wastewater treatment plant sludge disposal.
This is also has gone out to public bid, and they were the lowest bidder. Also, the contractor we've been using that hauls any of the wastewater sludge from the plant.
Is this all of us or just the chair?
It was just
the chair, I believe.
signature page.
I was looking for the signature page.
Yeah, I think it was back a few documents anyway.
Okay. Got it.
So I would entertain a motion for authorizing the chair to sign
I'll
agreement.
make a motion to authorize the chair to sign the agreement with Wastewater Services, Inc.
I'll second that. Yeah.
If there's no further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Our next order of business, we have, the town clerk, we have a municipal election, motion. And this is to make sure that we have, a police force on duty for.
Actually, different one,
Oh, this
sorry,
is a
yeah.
different, oh, okay, rather than,
Yeah, we have both here, right?
Oh, yeah, there is both of
Yeah,
them,
we have
sorry,
both.
my bad. That was just,
Oh,
the
okay,
first
so
one in
there's
order
two.
was the
Oh,
other one.
I didn't,
that's right,
yeah, there's two, I got you. So the first one's for, to ensure that we have proper police force at the election station, and then the, this is early vote by mail here.
We're doing
for the
separately.
municipal-
You okay with that, Mr.
Yeah,
Chairman?
yeah, absolutely.
Well, I would make a motion to put it on the floor. Make a motion to approve a sufficient number of police officers, but not less than one, at the polling location at every election therein to preserve order and to protect election officers and supervisors from interference with their duties, and to aid in enforcing the laws relating to elections as required by Section 72 of Mass General Law, Chapter 54, which has changed in Section 13 of Chapter 92 of the Acts of 2022. Further, to move to designate the police chief the authority to assign specific police officers according to scheduling and availability. The town clerk will advise the police chief on the location and time the officer is needed.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second on the police force motion. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So next we have early vote by mail. So this is, dear Select Board, the town of Lee has not participated in early vote by mail for municipal elections. The Vote Act of 2020 2 requests that we opt out of early vote by mail, or we will be forced to do it. It is my recommendation for budget restrictions that we continue to vote in person for the day, on the day of election. We estimate the cost of about $6,500 between sending people the application for vote by mail and mailing the ballots with postage paid return envelopes. I will, of course, continue to send out ballots to the people on my permanent absentee list and also offer absentee voting in office or by mail for people who cannot attend election day. This will ensure that the voting process for municipal elections remains the same and the townspeople are familiar with the process. So I guess I would entertain a motion to, or do we need a motion?
What you would need is to move that you will opt out of early vote by mail.
We're gonna opt out of early vote by mail, or at least that's the clerk's
That was again that
recommendation.
change in the 2022 acts.
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, for the purposes of people who are listening to this, this only has to do with the municipal election.
Right.
We're still gonna have to do it for the state election or federal elections in the fall. But this is only for our town meeting and in-town elections. So,
And the election date is May 15th?
Correct, yep, Monday the 15th.
So if you're not gonna be here Monday, the 15th, contact the clerk, she'll get you a absentee ballot so you can vote.
We can do that by mail or just stopping into the office at a time.
Any further discussion? If there's none, hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, next we have a Berkshire gas permit. This is only one, yep. So this permit is for installation of new gas service run from opposite side of house to right side of house, 104 Orchard Street. We have approval from the DPW and the police department. Just look at the map
Mr. Chairman,
here.
I'd make a motion that we approve the install new gas service at 104 Orchard Street as submitted.
I'll second that.
So they're gonna go under the road, but there's a note here for boring, so hopefully they can bore. If there's no further discussion, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Next order of business, we have a discussion of the annual town meeting warrant. We all have drafts in front of us. Was there any available for the public at this point, Chris?
We'll be putting, after this review, is planning to put it on the website tomorrow, and then we'll have it up there for the baby town meeting, which will be a week from Thursday.
Great.
And where are we doing it?
The
High school?
Yeah, and so I was gonna mention it later, but I'll mention it now. At 6 o'clock, there's a general information session just on what open town meeting is for anybody who's not participated before. That'll go from 6 to 7. And then at 7 o'clock, there'll be copies of the warrant there as usual, and the board can take questions on any of the articles. We're not doing any voting, but just a chance to ask informal questions on that. So, wanted the board to be able to, everyone receive this, but as a first chance to talk about it in public, as a board, if there is any questions or anything before I put it out online for the meeting next week. So, and the plan would be to actually sign it on the 18th of April.
Okay.
In case there was something that came up at the baby town meeting that we needed to make that the board wanted to make a change to. So. I don't know, Sean, if you wanted me to run down through them, or if, how you wanted to do that.
I don't know, maybe if you guys, Gordon or Bob, if you wanted to have any specific questions, we can kind of go generally through it, and then I'd open it up if anybody has any general questions for us. I think a couple things to note. It looks like our operating budget is about $21,400,000.
Yeah, it's 21,389, which is it's a 0.3% increase.
0.3%.
Not even 1%.
We went from 21,319 to 21,389.
Yep.
So,
Before we get to that, could I ask a question
Yeah.
about the first six? I noticed on this, it's written Article 1 through 6, consent agenda, or, one vote. Can you explain that to people?
Yeah, I was going to mention that, and I'll mention it at the Baby Town meeting too, unless you guys decide you want to do it differently. But the first 5 or 6 articles on here were ones that are routinely passed unanimously. They're mostly ones that are required by law, like salary of elected officials, accepting reports, the authorization to take grant money, to take Chapter 90 money. So this was just an efficiency matter. Many towns do that, but to put those all in one vote, if somebody wants to pull one out, you can, but otherwise we would have those sort of routine housekeeping things out of the way. I don't know anybody who doesn't want us to take grant money or take our state money for paving and that sort of thing, but if the board prefers to leave them separate, we can do that as well. Otherwise, those 6 sort of routine things that typically pass unanimously every year could go together, and then we'd go right into the budget, and then everything would be separate from there, so.
No, I know people are going to ask questions about it, I just wanted to get it out of the way now. So, thank you. Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Thank you. Bob, anything specific you wanted to?
No, I think we're going to be, with Baby Town meeting, we're going to be going over this quite a bit in detail.
Yeah, and then we have the wastewater and water enterprises, the general fund operating budgets.
Mr. Chair, if you'd like, there's a couple of
Yeah.
non-routine things on here I'm happy to mention when you're ready.
Go for it.
Yeah. So we have all of the operating budgets, the capital budgets, that sort of thing. There's a couple things on here this year that are unique. I guess one of them is a land acquisition for the Meadow Street Bridge. This is just to get a permanent easement. The state is paying for a brand new bridge, not the one over the Housatonic, but the next one that's after Oak and Spruce. Have you been there in the last few years? It's temporary.
20 years.
Yeah, 20 years.
Close.
So,
Not quite, but yeah.
so that's on the TIP program for, yeah, the temporary bridge almost seems permanent, but it's a 1-lane temporary bridge. The state is paying for that. I believe it's in the $8 or $9 million mark.
It's in the tip.
Yeah.
Right now, it's being held at like $44,500,000, but it's going to be more than that. But it is. I was on an MPO meeting just last week, and I was going through the bridge replacements around the county, and ours is right there to be done. So thank goodness.
Yeah. So we're getting oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's been a long time.
We're getting a free bridge out of it. We just need to authorize the board to do the easement that they need to build a new bridge. It's hard to put a price on what that will cost until we authorize the board to do it and then hire an appraisal company, but it should be, the highest end that I've heard is around, the most it should be is about $75,000, but hopefully much less than that. But for that, we're getting a multi-million-dollar bridge, so it's a good investment. That's just the state policy for TIP, is we're responsible for land acquisition. The other new thing this year is we have CPA now, so there's going to be 2 motions on the warrant. One, because our CPA committee is brand new this year, there was nobody to do last year, so one is kind of playing catch up, so our 2023 CPA gets voted on, and then there's a motion for 2024. Both of those are just routine motions that
We're not actually spending any.
we're not actually
money.
spending any, but by law we have to separate out into 4 accounts the money, one for open space, one for open space and recreation, historic resources, community housing, and then undesignated funds. So the committee plans to have a budget for projects, as I mentioned earlier, starting in FY25. So right now, that's just kind of banking that money. By FY25, we should hopefully have at least 600,000 or so in there that can be used for projects. So,
It's the LED street lights.
right. Yep. The LED lights are on here. That's to replace the Cobra headlights. It's not the decorative that we're working on. That's a different project. But all of the lights that are on telephone poles to change to LED. The savings in this more than pays for the electrical savings, rather, more than pays for what the lights cost. We're actually about $10,000 ahead of the game by switching them over, even after paying the financing on having the lights switched.
So we're saving money there.
We're saving money, yes. And there'll be a new smart LED so that it will also, not only will they be more efficient, but they are dimmable, they are programmable. There's alerts.
We'll know when one goes out.
If it goes
right?
out, DPW is going to get a message that there's a light out. If somebody says, well, my light's too bright, I can't go to sleep, we can go to that address and dim that light at a certain time, things like that. There's options for add-ons like Wi-Fi, things of that nature that you could add to them. The other one, there is, okay, Sean.
No, go ahead.
We are asking to put into the stabilization account for the fire EMS again. That has a little over 400,000 in it, and this is to put another 125 in. There is a water project that we're asking for some WSI, the Water Sewer Infrastructure Fund money for, which is Robert Street and Railroad Street to feed Main Street for fire suppression. There is also a article on here about the Laurel Lake Dam. So the current owner is willing to provide that to the town for free if we want to take ownership of it. So that's one of the articles on here.
We don't get the whole road to the beach yet. We got a portion.
Get us closer.
So,
Again, we're getting a little closer.
So
We're working on it.
it does give the, yeah, go ahead, you had a question, sorry.
So in owning a dam, there is responsibility.
Yes.
Yes.
So what state is the dam in right now? Do we have the latest report from the dam?
We do, yeah.
State, we do? Is it in a good state right now?
It is considered to be in good condition.
Good, not excellent?
I can get the report for you,
Yeah,
but.
I think we should get that.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I believe it was a good review,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I can't remember if the term was
Yeah,
satisfactory
it's been a while,
or
I don't have it right in
you know.
front of me, but
The dams are inspected like
every
all
year.
every
year.
year, like
Yeah.
4 times a year. They go in there and they do check various things all the time. So that it's not as though.
But it's the owner's responsibility to pay for that.
Correct.
Right.
So it's
So
gonna be an additional expense.
there
That would be
is
expense.
there is some expenses year to year.
Yeah, right, okay,
And also it gives us the rights to the top 12 feet of water,
Yeah.
Right.
which is
right.
We get
an interesting thing that we
rights to
may
the
not
draw.
want to have someone else have control of that.
Yeah,
We may wish to have control of that ourselves.
right,
At this point, that's where it sits.
okay. Would it give us any more rights to access to the beach?
Not necessarily, there's still a little block that we're.
It wouldn't make it worse, but.
No, it can't make it worse.
Nobody else could own the dam if we buy it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what are the beginning and end points of the dam? Just literally, it wouldn't begin at Route 20, it would begin where the dam is, really
So
over
there's a
the water.
deeded access to the dam from 20, and then, so it's
It's ours.
kind of,
Yeah, there's a lot that kind of horseshoes around the dam itself.
Right.
So there's deeded access to the dam, and
Right.
then we would, if we were to, purchase this, we would own the dam,
Right,
and that would get us across to the next property, the next owner there.
okay.
Which would cost us $10,000 perhaps, again.
What would cost it? Yeah, what would cost us 10,000?
Access to the beach,
At this point, there's no money issue about this, nothing's changed.
No.
Other than we would own the ability to go from Route 20 to the far side of the dam.
we don't pay anything right now,
No,
other than,
we don't.
I mean, we have, we pay the people at the gate, if that's what you're thinking of, but it's,
Right, yeah.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to say, didn't they charge us money for access initially to the beach some years ago?
They wanted to, but
Yeah, I don't believe that we've
so.
ever paid for
There's
access.
a
no.
general law, if they don't charge us, then if someone were to get hurt, they
Right.
can't be sued.
Right.
It's a liability issue. So the same with Highland Farm. But once you charge people to cross your property for recreational purposes, then you're on the hook if somebody gets hurt. So we have never been charged for our access. I think, Monica, you've been on the committee a long time. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that that's the way it's been handled in the past.
Okay. Well, if we can work something into the deed that allows access all the way to the beach, that'd be great.
Sure.
Thanks.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you guys, we can kind of, there's a couple more things after the beach, or the dam, but yeah, if you want to, if you want to come up
saying from Route 20 to where the end of the dam is, but then across the property owners, we don't have we won't have access. Are we going to be able to cross through the property to get to the beach?
With their permission, just as we have,
Just always with their permission?
Yes,
So they can stop us at any
Exactly.
point.
This is one step down the road.
Yeah, it doesn't fix that issue, but we own the dam if we were to do this. So that's,
It'll be up to
we'll talk to.
Stop them from using the dam then?
Well, they also have a deeded access through there, so.
It's the real arm wrestling battle. Yeah, go ahead, Monica.
Last point, I live in a house where I have a shared driveway.
Yeah.
And on both of our deeds, we have access to the property.
Correct.
And most of the driveway is on my property. So on our deeds, it's written that we have equal access to get in and out. And that's what I'd love to see
Right.
on our deeds.
Yeah, so we're two separate owners, father
Right.
and son. Right, so we did ask that question.
Right.
So, but right now, this is just for the dam, and the owner has offered it to the town for free. If not, he's planning to sell that dam. I'm not sure if we might want to buy it, but the question is, do we, we're putting it out to the town, do we want to take that offer? If not, obviously we have that, that's one less step in the equation to getting to the beach, so we wanted to make sure that the public knew that was an offer and let the public decide whether we want to do that.
And not needing a police presence or a gate attendant either.
Well, they may still require a gate person to get to the next phase, but we could be dealing with on potentially a new owner that might just say, no, you can't come through at all. I don't know. So.
I don't think anybody's going to buy a dam.
Well.
But it does, as I said, it does allow, it's the top 12.5 feet of water comes with that. So that would be in public control versus private control now if that happened. So.
There's also a water line that goes all the way down to the Eagle Mill that we would have certain rights to also.
One last question is that when we bring this is it going to be going on the town warrant for?
Yeah,
That's what we're discussing.
When that happens, will you, Chris, have an idea of cost-wise, what it would cost the town for liability, insurance, and all those things, so people can clearly understand what the cost is?
Right now, we do have that number. It's about $10,000 between inspection and annual maintenance. Now, if something was found, other than routine, obviously that would be on top of that, but that's about the yearly. We also, because Lennox shares that shoreline that's affected by that 12.5 feet of water, we're also, in discussion if they would pay for part of that, since they're getting part of the benefits of that shoreline. So splitting those costs with us.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, super. Thank you.
Yeah, so after that, there's a Board of Public Works legislative change that we're looking to make. Go ahead, Gordon.
No, Mr. Chair, I'll let you finish.
Yeah, and then there's also an article about municipal aggregation, which is trying to negotiate better electrical rates is really what that's about.
Before you go on from there, back up to the Board of Public Works legislation. The only thing I was going to request is, can this be printed bigger? I can't,
So
I've got my magnifying glass out to read this, and if people want to know what's going on, I think we need to have it in a much bigger font. It might take up 3 or 4 pages, but you know, there's a lot going on in this, and I just think that for people to be able to read it more carefully would be helpful, because this is tedious.
This is the red
Tedious to
line
read.
version.
Yeah.
The red lines are hard to switch. We have to do it as an image,
I
which is why.
understand.
So I will see if, between Sabrina and I, if we can get that.
Figure it out.
We might have to split it up under multiple pages, but we can probably make it bigger for you.
Thank you, that would be helpful.
And then the last few things that we have. What's that?
Somebody wants to speak.
Oh, sure, yeah, you have a question?
Yes.
Rob, you're on the Board of Public Works.
Yes.
And on the subcommittee
Oh,
that's
right.
working on this.
Yeah, that's right.
Rob Wright, 20 Peace Terrace, Lee, Massachusetts. Chris, we've been working on this for 4 or 5 months, 6 months maybe now, realigning some things. I think we've made progress. I don't feel like we have any animosity at all. Just want to make sure that, ask the question to the Select Board if we believe that the Department of Public Works Board is viable for the town of Lee, and if it will continue with your support. And I think we've been getting along great, and I'm new to this, and I'm just here to ask the question. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah. Appreciate the question.
Mr.
You want
Chairman,
to speak to
first
that,
of all,
Gordon?
I need the bigger font, because I can't read what you've done. But I'd love to get back to you, Rob, next week if I could, once they make this bigger and I can read it. It's like, it's got to be like an 8-point Dutch. I just can't believe how small this is. But anyway, yeah, I personally am happy that we, that we have the background and the history and understanding of mechanics and other things that are on the board. So after I read this, I'll be able to give you my opinion better. How's that?
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Thanks for your work.
Thanks for working with us on that.
That's been great.
Bob, you were also on that subcommittee.
Yeah.
If you have
Yeah, and I think
anything to add.
the intention, I think that the conversation has always been that the Board of Public Works is a valuable asset to the town. It's made up of people who understand the issues related to the to the Public Works, to the DPW. They make recommendations on buying trucks and equipment, and they'll go out and they'll try to find stuff. But we just found ourselves within town government working at cross purposes. There were too many cooks in the kitchen, so they would continue on making those recommendations. I can assure you, I certainly hold the Board of Public Works in high regard. And there was a question, a lot of other towns have gotten rid of their Board of Public Works. We don't want to do that. We'd like to keep them, they're a great resource, and we'd like to see it continue. I would like to see it continue. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it looks like the last few things is we have some potential zoning modifications that are.
Stretch energy too.
Oh yeah, and then the
that one.
stretch energy code, because we're talking about becoming a green community, and we need to adopt a stretch code.
And this came up, I'm going to say it maybe 8 or 10 years ago when it first came
About
out.
12.
12 years ago, it failed then, and we would have been one of the first communities to do it. Now, I think we'll be one of the last, so, if this passes. But
Most all Berkshire County communities are involved in this at the moment, stretch code communities. There's very few in Berkshire County that are not, but you'll hear goods and bads about anything. It's additional regulation overlay, and you should try and get a grip on it. DOER, Department of Energy Resources, they are the ones who are promulgating the codes now, the energy code. So if you want to know more about the energy codes, you can, the listing here, the CMRs listed, 225 CMR, section 22 and 23. One has to do with residential energy, one has to do with commercial energy. So if you want to know more about what is being overlaid on top of a regular old base requirement, these are additional requirements on commercial and residential properties. You can go and try and muddle your way through it and figure it out. So I would encourage you to at least try and become a little bit educated on what it means. We'll be on the same level playing ground as Lennox and Stockbridge and Barrington and everybody else if we were to do this. But you should really kind of look into it.
And if you can't get it online, it is available online, but if you don't have access, there's a copy on file as well, so.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I think that's very informative. Thank you, Gordon. There's going to be a couple zoning amendments that were from the planning board that we're looking to include on this.
They have one proposed for dumpster enclosures. That's a change to the dumpster enclosure.
Yep.
And the other is on split zones. So if you have a lot that's in 2 different zones, how that's handled.
Yeah. So I mean, if anyone has any general questions or anything about the warrant that we discussed, feel free to. I don't see any hands on Zoom. Feel free to ask away.
Planning board already about the split zoning?
They've been working on these too, yep.
They didn't finish.
They had a hearing on that.
16th or something.
Yeah.
I didn't see anything else. I didn't make the hearing.
I believe the hearing's over. Is that if that's what you were?
Right.
Yeah, it didn't get continued or anything like that. So. And then there was 2 others, Sean.
Did you have a question, Gail? I
was
just
just
heard.
wondering what the split zone is about.
Yeah, I guess I would leave it to the planning board to, unless you guys have anything. I don't know exactly. And I don't actually have the language in front of me either.
I have it here now.
Chris has the map.
It was updated just after
so I must have missed that.
I will be putting a summary online tomorrow, and that will explain it more in plain English of those. So that will go on the website, the warrant, and then I'll have a summary that I wrote about each article. So, but yeah, it does have to do with if your lot is in 2 different zones. So part of your lot is, say, in R30 and part of it is in a industrial or whatever, or commercial or something along those lines. What?
You can pick either one?
Not that simple. Nothing's that simple.
Oh, brother.
Before
I just called my surveyor the other today.
Before we move on, any other comments, questions about the draft warrant? Like Chris said, next week.
There's 2 other things though, Sean.
Oh, did I miss those 2?
There was, so the Greener Gateway Committee did have one resolution on there, Article 25.
Yeah.
That's
it's in this copy.
It's not a law, it's a resolution. So just to become a pollinator-friendly community. So it's just to resolve that the town is in favor of offering information and promoting planting things that are pollinator friendly for bees and other pollinating insects. So the last one is a signature petition, which is also a resolution, and that is I believe you're going to see this on a lot of towns across the Commonwealth. It's a resolution about changing the state seal. So. And it's non-binding. Again, it was a citizen's petition. You'll see a bunch of them come up, I think, whether the town's feeling is to keep it the same or to change it. So, and that is it.
Moving on. Our next order of business, we do have an announcement that I can read here about the suit that we filed. So as I think a lot of you are aware, the town of Lee has filed a lawsuit against Monsanto. And really I just wanted to give a general summary of what we're doing here. Monsanto is an agricultural biotechnology company owned by Bayer. They were sued by Lee, Massachusetts on Thursday in Massachusetts District Court, arising from the manufacturing of polychlorinated biphenyls, PCBs. The suit contends that despite knowing PCBs were toxic to humans, fish, birds, and the environment, Monsanto marketed and manufactured products containing PCBs for 5 decades. The court action seeks to collect damages arising from the building of a dump in the town of Lee for 2 million tons of PCB waste. Counsel has not yet appeared for the defendant. And the case number, we can provide that for you if you would like, so that you can look at all this yourself. So yeah, that's,
Yeah, I think the case number.
Case number.
The next page.
Yeah, oh, okay, 323 CV 30035. Let me just make sure that.
I think we have a link from our website, town website, that'll take you right to this.
Yeah. It'll be on there tomorrow. We're waiting for the announcement, so. Spending the whole day.
Hopefully the servers don't crash.
You're gonna help, Jim?
Yeah.
Well, that's the summary, but.
Yeah, the brief's, I think, 700, is it 300 or 400 pages?
The brief is just under 400 pages.
And then and then there's some attachments and
A
stuff.
lot of attachments.
So the filing is this part, which I can put on there.
That's nothing.
All of the exhibits is about this thick, so.
Yeah.
And I mean, this is the end of our general business. Do you guys have anything further you want to discuss? Chris, I'll hand it over to you. If you want to give us an update report.
Yeah, so we covered most of it already, but again, Baby Town meeting, we are doing it at the school this year, just so there's more room and there's better AV capabilities there. So that's going to be a week from Thursday, 6 o'clock. Again, anyone who's not familiar with town meeting or wants to know more about the change from representative to open town meeting, there'll be a presentation that'll last no longer than an hour from 6 to 7, and then 7 o'clock review of the warrant. The town meeting, May 11th, which is also a Thursday at 7 o'clock at the school, and the town elections, May 15th, the following Monday, which will be at Crossway Village. That's what I have.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris. Our next regular meeting is April 18th, 2023. Anyone would like to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.